Supervisor training then. We had some folks on that I guess weren't part of our group, so at least we got that taken care of. So thank you for calling in today for our returning supervisor training. This is a shorter version of the new supervisor training. What we'll cover today are what our performance measures are for the coming year, some changes that have occurred since this service year. We'll have some tips on recruiting, what our required activities are, some suggestions for how to start the year off right with your AmeriCorps member, what our training plans are for the upcoming year. We'll review member service hour requirements, and then we'll talk about some concerns that were raised during a recent external evaluation, and also some things that we can celebrate about the positive experiences our members are having. And we'll have some extra time at the end for questions. However, if you have any questions, in the meantime, while I'm going through this, feel free to interrupt me. I'm more than happy to answer. All you have to do is unmute your microphone on your computer or unmute your telephone. So most of you are familiar with the Lewis Clark Service Corps staff. I'm Charlotte Kramer. I'm the program director here in Lewiston, and I am also a 2-year alum of AmeriCorps Vista. Our Boise office is led by Judy Biddick, who's the regional office manager. And working with Judy in Boise are Jonna Mansfield, our regional program assistant, who is also an AmeriCorps alum, and another alum, Carrie Ann Sorotsky, who is the office assistant there. Here in Lewiston, joining me, we have Barb Siska, who is the program specialist, Ellen Thompson, our financial technician, and Carrie Ann Claudia Mazurka, our office assistant here in Lewiston. So now if I can get folks to unmute their phones and introduce yourself by giving us your name, what your host site is, and what your member's role is within your organization. So just jump in, whoever is available.
I'm Emily Hammond, and I'm at Kelsch Elementary School in Boise, Idaho. And my AmeriCorps, their role in my organization is to tutor small groups of kids in reading and math.
Great. Welcome. Who's next? Anyone? You can unmute your microphone or unmute your phone. I see we have Joel Palmer, Lethea Botello, Martha Martin, and Mary Stegner and Nancy Campbell. So we've had audio issues with this webinar this time. So anyway, thank you all for joining us today. So let's review real quickly what our performance measures are. Last year, the Corporation for National and Community Service started a trial of national performance measures. They did that because it was really hard to tell about AmeriCorps' effectiveness because each of the AmeriCorps programs were measuring something different. Our program had a list of about 8 things we were measuring, and the organization next door probably had a list of 8 different things they were measuring. So the corporation wanted to try to get us measuring similar outcomes so that way they could more effectively tell our story. So we opted into the national performance measures, and like any other Education AmeriCorps program, we are going to be, who are in this trial, we are all measuring the same thing, the number of students who begin to receive tutoring, the number who complete a tutoring program, and for our purposes, we say that that's a minimum of 50 sessions, and then the number of students who have improved academic performance. So for our performance measures, we have projected that in 2011-2012, 6,300 students will start a tutoring program with an AmeriCorps member. Of those, 4,725 will attend a minimum of 50 sessions, and 3,500 of those students will have improved academic performance as measured by the standardized tests or grade reports, whatever it is you use to measure academic performance of your students. This year we also opted into national performance measures for mentoring. And as with the tutoring measures, the AmeriCorps, the national measures will deal with how many matches are commenced, how many are sustained for the year, and we have said that for our purposes that will be at least 10 months, and then how many have fewer disciplinary referrals or suspensions. The only two things that we could have for an end outcome were fewer disciplinary referrals or completion of high school. And since we have such a wide variety of students we serve, that really didn't fit us. You'll notice the numbers are a lot lower here, and that's because for reporting purposes to the corporation, we are only going to match we're only going to count the matches made through the Department of Corrections and juvenile or felony probation and parole, because the end outcome will be fewer disciplinary referrals and it's easier to track there. So we say that there will be 50 matches made. Of those, 40 will be sustained for at least 10 months, and 30 of those will have fewer disciplinary referrals. Now, just because we are not going to be reporting your members' mentoring efforts, doesn't mean we don't want you to track those. We still do, because this is data we have collected over the years, and we want to continue collecting that data. So we'll still have you report to us. We just won't report it to the corporation. Could I get someone to mute their phone so we're not hearing you type? Thank you. And then some other measures that we will be tracking through the year, but we will not be reporting once again, are improved IRI or DIBEL scores, improved math skills, and then general academic improvement in those different classes of students that we serve. So there have been some changes in the last year brought about by the 2009 Kennedy Serve America Act. Beginning with the upcoming year, starting September 1st, supervisors will have to have a background check, an FBI fingerprint background check, and the cost of that is the responsibility of your host agency. If you already are required to pass a background check, provide us with documentation that the check has been done and that it has been passed. And you also have to include somewhere in the documentation that you have looked at the picture ID and you are verifying that that is indeed their fingerprint check. AmeriCorps members are going to get a raise this coming year to $12,100 for full-time and $5,600 for part-time. And they're also getting an increase in their education award. That's going up to $55.50 for full-time and $27.75 for part-time. So that's those are pretty substantial increases, and that ought to help with recruiting. Beginning actually last year, members who are aged 55 and over can now pass along their education award to a child, a grandchild, or a foster child. And now members may serve up to 4 terms. That's whether it's full-time or part-time. They can still serve up to 4 terms, but they can only receive the equivalent of 2 full-time education awards. So if a member has served 2 full-time terms, he or she may serve 2 more, but they won't get an education award for the last 2 terms. A member who's serving part-time can serve 4 part-time terms and get the equivalent of 2 full-time ed awards. They can do, 1 full-time and 2 part-time, but they can only just receive the 2 full-time ed awards. So that we anticipate that we may get some alums coming back to to re-enroll and do AmeriCorps service again, which will be good for host sites to have people with some experience. So, of course, recruiting begins now. Even though we don't have final word on our grant, we should have that in the next couple of weeks. But we do need to start thinking about finding the right member for the positions we have open. It's really important for your organization to have current contact information for someone we can get a hold of in the summer. That's when we do the majority of our recruiting and interviewing, and we need somebody to be able to send the applications to. If you're not available to interview, chances are someone's going to snap up the really good members, and so we want to make sure that we can send along applicants as we get them. As far as your recruiting efforts, you're really a partner with us in this. We'll do things like right now that it's all of the positions are already listed on the AmeriCorps portal, and so anybody who's interested in AmeriCorps can search any number of ways to find our positions. We also take out newspaper advertising. We post on several online places. We contact veterans organizations and senior organizations, but we'd like you to also be our partner in recruiting. We know what we're looking for in an AmeriCorps member, but you know what you require at your host site. So when you're thinking about recruiting, you can post it in your local newspapers, weekly newspapers, online like Craigslist. We get a really good response from our Craigslist ad. And when you're thinking about newspapers, don't just think about your local or regional paper. Think about the free ones like the Money Saver or Boise Weekly or Thrifty Nickel or whatever it is. If people don't have to buy the newspaper, a lot more eyes see it. So don't forget about those. Use your website or your Facebook, Twitter account to get the word out that you're looking for a AmeriCorps member and what kind of skills you need. And then things like your reader board, or if you have an alum that has served at your site in the past that you can contact or ask them for recommendations. PTA individuals who are already volunteering, church bulletins, those kind of things. So really think outside the box. We will provide you with electronic copies of our recruitment materials, like frequently asked questions and what the benefits are for full and part-time. We've also established 2 websites that are specific to recruiting for South Idaho sites and North Idaho sites. Don't worry about writing these addresses down. We are preparing our host site hotline newsletter, and we'll be sending that out next week with these links already in it. But these websites are specifically for our recruiting activities. So we will, the South site has our frequently asked questions, a map of where the sites are, AmeriCorps benefits, links to the portal so they can do their application, contact information, that kind of thing. And then AmeriCorps brochures are also available and can be ordered from the Corporation for National and Community Service. So here's just a sample of some ads that we have run in the last few years. You'll see the one on the top left is designed for someone who is really looking for the service experience, for the community involvement kind of experience, for people who are maybe a little more idealistic and are looking at it as a way to serve their community. The one on the right at the top is an ad that we run in Boise Weekly, and that you can see is focusing on someone who's interested in education and getting within the school system. And then the bottom one is our Craigslist ad, and you can see it's got a lot more general information, specifically because we don't have to worry about how much we're spending for the ad, so we can provide more information there and really kind of hit a broad audience. And like I said, the Craigslist ads have really been very successful for us and many other AmeriCorps programs, and it's free. So when you're looking for your AmeriCorps member for the coming year, keep in mind that he or she must be 17 years old or older. They must, if they are tutoring, they must have a high school diploma or GED. If your member is strictly working before and after school programs, the corporation considers that mentoring, even if they're helping with homework. So those individuals do not have to currently hold a high school diploma, but they have to be working towards one. AmeriCorps members have to be United States citizen or a permanent resident with a green card. They must pass a multi-state criminal background check and a national sex offender registry check. And then, of course, we always encourage individuals with disabilities to apply. Something that's new this year that goes along with the criminal background check, members who are working with vulnerable populations, such as the elderly or individuals with disability or children, must also pass a fingerprint background check. Our program will pay the cost for that. Now, as you probably can guess, getting results on an FBI fingerprint check takes substantially longer than just doing a criminal background check. We do those while the member is meeting with us, and we get an immediate response on both the criminal check and the sex offender check. But it's going to take some time for the FBI check. As long as the member has passed the criminal check and the sex offender check, we can go ahead and let him or her start serving, pending the results of the FBI check. If for some reason there is a hit that comes back on the background check, then we'll have to reevaluate. It won't necessarily prevent someone from being an AmeriCorps member. In fact, the corporation regulations say that the only two offenses that will keep you from serving in AmeriCorps are committing some sort of a sex offense or murder. So if it's anything less than those, when we get the results back, we'll consult with the host site to see if it's something they think they can live with, if they think it's minor enough or long ago enough that it's not going to be an issue, then we can work around that as well. So your AmeriCorps members, just as a reminder, they must provide direct service to your clients or students. They must tutor and or mentor academically at-risk students one-on-one or in small groups. And that phrase is very important. We actually use the phrase one-on-one and in small groups. And that is how the RFP for the grant is written. So we need to make sure that our members are never in charge of a classroom or never in charge of a playground, that they are one-on-one and in small groups. And for the purposes of our grant, we write it to say that mentoring is going to include educational enrichment activities, art, music, drama, civic engagement, and also volunteer recruitment and management, as long as the member has a lot of hands-on work with the volunteers. In other words, they can't be strictly clerical or administrative. They have to be doing hands-on work. So just to refresh your memories on good ways to get your year off to a great start with your AmeriCorps member, just some tips. Make sure you have a clear chain of command so we know who the member is supposed to report to on a daily basis or when they're ill. Make sure anybody who's going to be working closely with your AmeriCorps member has a copy of their job description, so there's no confusion about what they are supposed to be doing. And when I get towards the end of this, you'll see why I'm stressing this tip. We have AmeriCorps signs that we'd like you to place someplace quite visible in a front window. And if you need those, please let us know and we'll be happy to provide you with some. And then have a work area that the member can use to store their personal belongings while they're serving, or to make phone calls or do paperwork, that kind of thing. On the first day, introduce the member to the staff and be prepared to explain what their role is going to be. Make sure they understand what your policies and procedures are. Introduce them to the work area, show them where office supplies are and bathroom, those kind of things. And then ask if they have any questions for you. And we actually do provide them with a list of questions for their supervisor for the first day, just to make sure that they have all the information they're going to need in order to comply with agency rules, policies, and procedures. During the first 2 weeks, we'd like you to make sure that your community and stakeholders know that you have an AmeriCorps member provided by our program. And this year, once we receive word that we've gotten the grant, we will send you a press release to use where you can plug in your specific organization's information and send it out to your local press. You can also, use, if you do an internal newsletter or an email blast, take your member to your board of directors or to a PTA meeting, that kind of thing, so that way they're aware that there's an AmeriCorps member serving in your organization. During the first couple of weeks, it's really nice to meet every day, even if it's only for a few minutes, to kind of reflect with the members, see how things are going, find out if there are any questions or issues that have come up. And then it's also a good idea to kind of revisit the goals for that first couple of weeks. So, make sure the member understands what your goals are for your students, and that's part of what you included in your host site application. Make sure they understand the things that we're measuring and how it's going to be measured. And then also talk about your members' personal goals, because we do ask them during our interview portion what they hope to work on within themselves, or how they hope to grow through AmeriCorps service. So maybe helping them think about that and talk to that about you will really help them maximize the experience that they get from their service. And then for the rest of the year, AmeriCorps members really need an advocate. So if you could be your cheerleader, a mentor, a coach for your AmeriCorps members so that they know they have that support there. Being an AmeriCorps member is not easy. It's difficult to live on $12,000 a year, as I'm sure you would understand. And then you have the daily requirements at your host site, and you've got a curriculum to read, and you have team meetings to go to, and you have service projects to plan. There's a lot going on. And so having you there to support them is really going to make the difference as the year progresses. Meet every week for, even like I said, even if it's just for a few minutes, and make it more than just about signing timesheets. Talk about the evaluations and make sure that you understand that we need a mid-year and end-of-year evaluation for each and every AmeriCorps member, even if they leave their service early. And then, of course, you also agree to do your in-kind tracking on the monthly data sheet, so we can have an accurate account of what in-kind contributions your organization is making to us. We will have 3 required supervisor trainings in the upcoming year. Actually, this is kind of backwards, because the regional training will be the next one coming up, and that will be sometime in November and December. And as you're aware, that's when our staff meets with supervisors and their members. We review some additional things that have come up, or we go through some of the paperwork, and those will be done either face-to-face in places where it's easy for us to get together. In some of the more out-of-the-way or remote cities, we'll probably do that by webinar as well, just to make sure we're being efficient with our time. Then in March or April, organizations that are hoping to host an AmeriCorps member the following year will be required to attend another short webinar like we're doing today, and that's where we actually go over the application process. We talk about what's changed in the application this year. Believe it or not, we made several changes in the applications that we sent out in February, and some host sites just filled out the one that they had last year. So they didn't even answer some of the new questions we had. So this is just a way to really give you the tips you need to submit an outstanding application. And then we'll do a webinar like this again next May prior to the upcoming service year. Members will attend a pre-service training, which happens after they accept a position with your site, but before they begin service. We've typically called this an enrollment meeting, but over the last few years, it's kind of evolved from just being a meeting where we have them turn in paperwork to a little bit of training so they're prepared for when they show up at their host site. We can't give a full-blown training because we're not allowed to spend any money on them until after September 1st, but we are revising this training and making it a little meatier so that way they have a little bit more of a foundation before they show up at the host site. Our orientation training will be October 3rd through the 7th here in Lewiston. That's an additional day this year. With 116 AmeriCorps members, we just realized that it's too difficult to train that many people in 2.5 days. So they'll have 2 half days of travel, and then the rest will be spent here on orientation. Early spring will be the Serve Idaho Conference this coming year. It will be in the Coeur d'Alene area. And then every month they meet for 2 or 3 hours, usually the second or third Friday. They meet with other AmeriCorps members in their area, and that's where they go over the curriculum. They plan service projects, and those kind of things. And they are required to attend those as well. We will be using My Service Log again this year. Or next year, and we'll be sending updated username and password information. Of course, your username is just your email address. The password is generated by the system. We tell members to enter their hours every week and supervisors to sign off every other week. This year, we will be sending out email reminders because it's a little harder to remember when you don't have a piece of paper sitting in front of you for your signature. So this way, it will help keep everybody on track entering their hours. Supervisors may only sign after the members have signed. We had an audit a couple of weeks ago, and the auditors looked at the signatures in My Service Log to check and make sure that the dates were correct, that the supervisor approved after the member did. So that's very important. Now, sometimes members may get close to the end of their year and realize they do not have enough hours to get their education award. So it is acceptable for them to serve at an alternative site to accumulate the additional hours they're going to need. The exception to that is it has to be a location where they wouldn't normally be expected to volunteer just as a normal part of their life. The example is one that we actually had an audit finding on, and that was an AmeriCorps member who was coaching his child's sports team and counting the hours. Since as a parent he could be reasonably expected to coach his child's team, those hours were disallowed. So as long as it's not something you would normally be doing, it's okay to have an alternative service site. However, the member must get approval from both you as the supervisor and from Lewis Clark Service Corps. They will be given a paper service log that they will have to fill out to document the time they serve at the alternative site. And they also have to designate a supervisor at the site who will verify their hours. So it will be a paper log that the member will fill out and have the alternative supervisor sign. The member will then enter those hours in my service log as service agreement hours, just like the hours that they serve at your site. And you may feel free to ask to look at the paper service log to verify that the hours were actually spent there. So you would approve the hours in my service log. The member turns in the original signed paper log to our office so we can keep it in their records. And one thing to remember, at no time should serving at an alternative site ever interfere with their service at your site. We tell them that you're their top priority, and if it gets to the point where they are not showing up at your site so they can go to the other site, we need to know about it so we can intervene and put a stop to that. So now the concerns that some of our members had, or that we had from some of our members' comments. Serve Idaho recently did an evaluation of our program, of actually all the AmeriCorps programs, and during that they interviewed host sites and members and asked a series of questions. And these were some of the responses that they got. These are things that would cause red flags for an auditor, and it caused red flags for us. So we want to make sure that your member never feels like they're giving that they need to give these kind of responses. There aren't enough teachers with the AmeriCorps members in the morning when we're outside with the kids. Remember, one-on-one and in small groups. Auditors have told us AmeriCorps member needs to feel comfortable leaving an area to use the phone or to go to the bathroom, and because they are never in charge. They are there as an assistant for one-on-one and in small groups. I feel my site doesn't understand what it means to use an AmeriCorps member effectively. They push the line between hired staff and the AmeriCorps member. My role seems to be helping other staff and not the students. That's why it's important to make sure anybody who's going to be have any interaction with your AmeriCorps member has a copy of that job description and understands what the AmeriCorps member's role is. This next one is especially concerning. My hours have gone from 20 a week to 6. I spend my time listening to music and doing homework. If a member said that to an auditor, we would have to pay back every penny we've spent on that member in training, in AmeriCorps service gear, in living allowance, in education award, because we can't be giving a member an allowance to listen to music and do their homework. If for some reason, and we understand things change within organizations. I mean, things have changed within our organization. But if something happens and you don't have the demand, or the client isn't there, or it's a slow time and you just can't come up with something for the member to do, contact us and we will help you work through that. We may need to place the member at an alternative site for a couple of weeks until you have more demand. Maybe we can help you work with some of your community partners so that member can help strengthen your organization while assisting another one. But we need to, A, make sure the member has enough to do to complete their hours, and B, when they're counting hours, they're actually serving. I thought I would spend more time tutoring rather than working recess duty and serving lunch. I've been utilized more as a substitute. And this last one, which is again another illustration of why people need to understand the member's role. Someone needs to tell my supervisor I'm a tutor and not a personal assistant. Celebration, though, we also had some great comments. I really enjoy the position I'm in and the people I work with. I love the kids. The host organization I serve with is amazing. I feel like I grow every day. I enjoy my position. As needs are determined at my site, leadership steps up to help guide me. So these are the kind of comments we want to hear. We want our members to feel supported. We want them to feel like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we want them to have that sense of accomplishment at the end of their year of service. So I'm done with my part of the presentation. Now I'm ready to answer questions. Does anyone have any questions about what's coming up or how to get started or anything like that? Just unmute your phone or enable your microphone on your computer. Really? No questions? You guys are good. Well, if and when you do come up with questions, or if somebody contacts you with questions about AmeriCorps and you don't know the answer, feel free to call your home office. We have an 800 number that rings up here to Lewiston, so if they have specific AmeriCorps side of the questions that you don't feel you can answer, refer them to our 800 number, and like I said, this will also be available in the host side hotline, all this contact information. Of course, Barb Siska up here in the north and Judy and Jonna down in the south are available Monday through Friday to help you with any questions or concerns you have. And then, of course, there's our website. You can feel free to, our website has lots of information, forms, and that kind of thing. So that's a good resource as well. So that's what I have for today. I'm anxious to get started on the new year. As I said, we should hear something in the next week or so about our grant. Although AmeriCorps did get cut in the last budget, it was not as much as it could have been. So there will probably be some adjustments made this year. Probably we did request 5 additional full-time members. I'm pretty sure we won't get those. Hopefully, best case scenario, we just stay even and we have exactly the same members that we have this year. So we'll let you know one way or another as soon as we hear. Keep your fingers crossed. And hopefully I'll have some good news for you in a couple of weeks. So thank you everyone for spending some time with us and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you.